Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on how to scale your business with data clean rooms. I'm Tammy Ben David. I'm a solution architect here at AppsFlyer, and I specialize in our new data clean room product. Before we get started, let's do a quick introduction to our two panelists today. First, we have Edith Mittelman, who is AppsFlyer's General Manager of Privacy Cloud and is responsible for AppsFlyer's data clean room solution. We also have Tina Moffett, who's a principal analyst from Forrester and who focuses on issues that marketers face today, especially around how to use data to make effective decisions.
Hi.
The format for the webinar is that Tina will start us off with a presentation on the rise of data clean rooms, followed by a chat with Tina and Edith. We'll then end with a Q&A. Please submit all of your questions in the chat, and we'll try to answer as many as we can at the end of the webinar. So to kick us off, welcome, Tina. We're really excited to have you here with us.
Great. Thank you for having me. And thank you, everybody, for joining today on our webinar, Scaling Your Business with Data Clean Rooms. My name is Tina Moffett. I'm a principal analyst here at Forrester, covering marketing analytics, specifically the methods, tools, technology, metrics, strategies, and processes to enable a data-driven marketing organization. And I'm excited to share with you my latest research on data clean rooms and our latest thinking on this new emerging data collaboration technology. Next slide, please. So I like when I do webinars, I like to start off with really big kind of macro trends, right? And right now we're in this era of the single greatest disruption of our time. And this is the disruption of new technologies that enable consumers to have information right at their hands. And this has shifted business strategies and also has caused a lot of new business categories to emerge. Think of companies like Uber and Lyft and Tesla. I mean, all these new emerging companies over the past 15 years has started because of this single greatest disruption of having technology at your fingertips. Next slide, please. In addition to this disruption, businesses have a lot to worry about. When we asked in our CMO Pulse survey, which we administer every quarter on the latest trends that are plaguing marketing leaders today, what are the top systemic risks that they're worried about? These are some of the list of the systemic risks. What they're really worried about based on our last survey are issues like economic uncertainty and supply chain stability, as well as the rise of values-based consumers. So consumers making buying decisions based on the brand's values and if those values aligned with what's important to them. I mean, so all of these influences have shifted business and certainly marketing strategies. Next slide, please. And specifically, what we're seeing, if we dig down to what is causing this rise of interest in data clean rooms, is specific marketing forces. And we call these forces data deprecation. Now, data deprecation is the limited access and availability of data for marketers to use for marketing-driven decisions. And data deprecation is largely driven by four key actions. First is consumer-driven privacy actions. So these are actions like consumers are taking that may prohibit sharing data. So they're turning on ad blockers, operating in privacy settings. Second is identity and browser deprecation. So this is the infamous third-party cookie deprecation, Firefox ETP, Apple ITP. I mean, these changes have significant limiting the ability to track traffic going in and out and across websites. privacy regulations, CPA, CPRA, and GDPR leading the way. We're starting to see at the state side, very state regulated privacy regulations happening. And in turn, companies are taking privacy related action. And finally, the rise of walled gardens. And of course, I'm talking about Amazon, Facebook, and Google having limiting the sharing of log level data and files outside the ecosystem. But even with the rise of kind of closed publisher ecosystem and retail media groups, all of these forces are changing the way we do modern marketing and modern advertising. And then what is born out of this is the rise of data collaboration tools, which I use that as an umbrella term for, and the data clean room is a subset of that. Next slide, please. So you're probably wondering, if you're new to the concept of data clean room, well, what exactly is a data clean room? And we have a specific definition here on this slide. Now, I'm not going to read the definition, but I will say that data clean room is a tool that enables collaboration between two parties and eventually, hopefully, between multiple parties within one clean room, although there are some privacy implications to that. But in the very least, two parties where they share and collaborate sensitive enterprise data to make business decisions. And data clean room specifically used in marketing sense, in the marketing ecosystem, is used to use data to make marketing driven decisions. So as you can understand, a marketer may be really interested in a clean room if they're making data driven decisions, if they want to continue using data in a way that's ethical and privacy preserving, to not only bring value for the business, but value for the customer. Next slide, please. Now, clean rooms have specific characteristics. They're able to connect data sources with specific guardrails in place, right? That means that they can enable a connection between an advertiser and the partner, usually a publisher or a big tech provider, or maybe an additional advertiser or retail media group, that will enable sharing of that data. And there's different functionalities within the connectivity. There's encryption, there's privacy filtering techniques. So there's governance and privacy capabilities. Data clean rooms also allow consumability. This means that with minimal human intervention, users can ensure that data can be used in a way that's actionable. And some of the functionalities that enable consumability and put guardrails around it are things like encryption, but also rights management, right? Outlining rules of how you can use this data within a clean room environment. And then finally, the final characteristic of a clean room is transferability and portability. And so we feel that clean rooms must have the capability to transfer insights into different systems. Now, this doesn't mean that the actual physical data moves, but actually the insights and the signals that you need to make decisions can be transported. And that there are certain functionalities around that, right? You can't re-identify. There's certain audits to understand the risk tolerance of doing such actions. And there's tracking capabilities to ensure compliance standards are met. Next slide, please. Now you're probably wondering, okay, well, this is great. I have a good sense of what clean rooms do. They're a privacy preserving tool, enables data collaboration, but as a marketer, what are my specific use cases? Why would I be interested in this? And my answer to you is that there are 4 emerging use cases, and some stronger than others, but all of these are emerging, because keep in mind, clean rooms are still a rather elementary technology with growing adoption rates and to build stronger use cases. But the 4 use cases, first is marketing and media performance measurement. So with the deprecation of the third-party cookie, that means that advertisers can't measure ad level performance across different ads using advanced attribution models. I mean, that has gone away. It's gone away for quite some time. But with data clean rooms, you're able to upload your first-party transaction data in a privacy-preserving environment. And let's say one of your major publisher has all that ad impression level data from all of your ads that you bought with them for the year or for the month. And you're able to build these advanced attribution models within a clean room. Or maybe you're not even that advanced and you just want to join your CRM transaction data along with the impression level data to measure performance or build tests. So the clean room environment enables that collaboration for deeper media and marketing analytics. The second use case is audience insights and syndication. So with a clean room, you're able to upload your first party data and attributes of your best customers with the publishers or big tech or your retail media group and build lookalike audiences for activation. And this is very similar to what a traditional DMP used to do, except you're stripping out all of that third-party data that could be looked at as nefarious and just dealing with one-to-one first-party data, which gives a more precise audience targeting approach. And the third and the fourth use case surrounds the customer analytics. With data clean rooms, you're able to really understand different journeys a customer takes within maybe a specific partner, if it's a large publisher or a big tech provider, where you're able to say, okay, well, this set of customers was exposed to an ad, and this is the journey that they took before they converted. That's one use case. Another use case is just pure customer insights. And a great example of this is if a large CPG, FMCG company takes their very limited first-party data and pushes it into a retail partner, they're able to understand things like market basket analysis, competitive products within the same basket, share of wallet, things like that, which are more consumer facing insights. And they're able to build marketing programs that enable greater loyalty, identify areas for cross and upsell. So there's a lot of emerging use cases just within marketing and media. Next slide, please. And data clean rooms have certain core functionalities: privacy, security controls, processes to enable protection, data governance, and certain analysis use cases. So within privacy controls, we find that data clean rooms, really robust privacy enhancing data clean rooms, have various privacy enabling frameworks to ensure data is encrypted. It is using advanced privacy frameworks based on the types of analysis that you're doing. And this is really important because you're sharing data in an environment with another partner that is very sensitive. So it's really important to have those frameworks in place. The processes to enable privacy protection and data governance go hand in hand. So this ensures that there are guardrails that data of how data can be accessed. Guardrails like having lists of people that can access data, making the data unavailable after a certain time period. So maybe it's a 15-day window where you can do your analysis and the data disappears. And ensuring that the data, there are rules to say that you cannot view certain types of data or certain types of analysis or do certain types of analysis. Those guardrails enforces privacy. As well. And then finally, a self-governing analysis experience. And this means that as data regulation changes, the clean room automatically updates privacy preserving approaches to reflect the current regulatory environment. This becomes really important because you as the user may not have to be up to date, although we believe you should, with certain privacy regulations going on globally or across different states. The clean room automatically is updated to to consider that. Further, self-governing analysis experience means that the clean room has enabled certain capabilities for use cases, whether that would be basic segmentation or marketing measurement and analytics use cases within the clean room. So it reduces the number of human interactions that need to use a clean room to maybe build analysis or segments across your use case. Next slide, please. So you're probably wondering at this point, well, this is great. You've built the case for a data clean room. Now what? Now what should I do to ensure that I have the right data clean room partner? Next slide. So we've come up with 4 different C's of what you should do to decide if a clean room is right for what you want to achieve. First is you need to consider your marketing spend across publishers and media partners. We recommend that you invest in clean rooms where your publisher partners or your advertising partners where you spend probably the most dollar, you get the most exposure and action within that partnership. The reason being is because you have more latitude and data needed to do analysis within that relationship. Second is to compile data clean room use cases. And while this may seem like a very obvious recommendation, we often find that marketers tend to gravitate towards new approaches, techniques, tools, and technologies, data sources, without having a clear mind of what they need it for. So we recommend you prioritize use case around analytics and insights for a data clean room. And your second priority should be activation. And the reason is because with analytics and insights, you're going to be able to have a little bit more flexibility in terms of what you can use the clean room for as well. Your third C is check. Check your existing tech and data partners for data clean room capabilities. You're probably using a ton of partners right now for data, for analytics, for activation, and they may have clean room capabilities right there and available to you. So we recommend auditing your existing marketing and ad tech stack to see if there's any flexible data clean rooms that you can work with. Because building that relationship, I think, is like bringing in any new vendor or any new partner. You're gonna have to make sure it's a cultural and kind of fit, if they have good account management services, things like that. So we recommend checking first in-house before building RFPs. And then finally, calculate the incremental resources needed to support a data clean room. And this is really important. This is not a clean room, or any data collaboration tool is not like a plug and play, I think, solution. I think it's a tool, certainly, and it is a tool that needs to be set up and have certain SLA agreements and things like that a normal tool and technology has. But it requires expertise outside of marketing as well. So you're probably going to have to engage with your privacy team, your in-house lawyers, your tech team to ensure that the tool is meeting the guardrails, security, and privacy standards within your organization, but also the flow of data coming from your brand into a clean room. It's not like the sharing process of your data with a clean room is going to require your internal tech partners. So you need to have a clear sense of what that process is with your data clean room partner going forward, and then allocating the right resources. And so at this point, I think that's all of my presentation for clean rooms and what the use cases are and benefits. So I will turn it back to Tammy, who will start to facilitate the Q&A session.
Thank you, Tina. Those were some really great insights. I know I'll definitely be keeping the 4 C's in mind from now on. So now for the fireside chat portion of our webinar. I'd like to start off our first question by building off of the use cases that you mentioned earlier. So Tina, this one might be for you, who is actually using data clean rooms right now? Is it the marketing, legal, security departments? Sorry, you're on mute.
I'm sorry about that. So the concept of a data clean room, like I said before, I umbrella it under the technology of a data collaboration tool. And the idea of data collaboration certainly didn't start within marketing. It has been an enterprise-wide effort with partners. It started actually for M&A activity to share very highly sensitive data between like an investment bank and their clients, right? That's where a clean room concept has started. And certainly that has leaked through other parts of the business in the form of other data collaboration tools. The way we're using the term data clean room in this concept is specifically for marketing. Within marketing, I find that the buyer is a marketer. And they are being supported by technology, their privacy and legal teams, and their data science team. So the buyer is a marketer, the user may be a marketer, depending on whether or not the clean room has capabilities for that, or the data scientist who may be doing advanced analysis in this. Specifically within marketing, it is a marketer who's responsible for maybe performance-based marketing, where they have to measure to an outcome. And then across functions, or across verticals, I see a lot of adoption happening with CPG, FMCG, consumer products and retail partners, and certainly I'm sure e-com as well.
Yeah, first of all, hi everyone. I'm Edik, as Tavi mentioned. Great to have you all on this call, and I'm super excited to learn from Tina as well about how Forrester and the analysts there see the market. I can just add from our perspective how we see from our customers. This is usually a tandem of a marketeer and a BI person or a data scientist. So usually they come to the meetings together and they look at it from both sides in terms of the ROI and the value for the marketing, for the performance marketing, for attribution, for measurement, for activation, but also how it fits the BI systems of the customer, how it fits the ETLs, how it fits the processes of the data flow, because eventually data clean room should be integrated to sometimes very complex systems that these companies built over the years. So usually what we see is a marketeer and the BI person coming together, and they will be the buyer in terms of the CMO budget is usually the budget that we see being used.
Amazing. So let's get a poll going around this as well. If you're already using a data clean room or you're considering using one in your organization, who initiated the idea? And while we wait for the answers to come in, let's move on to our next question. Edik, this one may be for you because Tina's already started us off on it. What would you say are the most active sectors for DCR?
Yeah, so I think from what we see from our customers, and we have a pretty wide representation of all verticals and geographies, the most value being generated by data clean rooms and privacy preserving technologies today is in two main sectors, which is e-commerce and gaming. And I think this is predominantly because these two sectors tend to be much more technical than others. So they have technically savviness and they have people working on this. And also their performance marketing and their targeting capabilities are usually very, very advanced, right? So they feel the pain of everything that Tina mentioned, that everything we know, the signal loss and the identification, deprecation, all of this, these companies tend to feel the pain first. So they tend to be early adopters of everything that helps them regain control and regain their performance capabilities. So for e-commerce, for instance, retargeting became increasingly hard in the new reality. And without the ability to retarget and to bring the right audiences, the right people to purchase, e-commerce suffers. And for gaming, they optimize every little bit of the games, every little bit of the mechanics. They calculate the ROAS and LTV on the scent. This is the machine. So these two verticals tend to generate most of the value today. And if we look at crossing the chasm graph, these tend to be the early adopters, and they bring the mainstream wisdom alongside.
And I want to expand on my answer before in the first question. I mentioned consumer products, and retailers seem to be a big adopter as well. And advertisers within consumer products, that's CPG, FMCG manufacturers, have a tendency to be brand advertisers, right? They're not performance marketers. They don't have that transaction data. So what data clean rooms provided them was a vessel for them to connect to retailers. So whatever little first party data that they do have, because they do have first party data in the form of maybe consumer emails through kind of warranty cards, or if a consumer went to a website and they opted in to get coupons directly from the brand, they have that data and they can use that for a retail partner to connect with a retail partner, and just a world of exploration opens for them. They're going to be able now to see, with that small segment of first party data through a clean room, what other products consumers are buying, what's their market basket made up of, what are their buying patterns with the product, the brand's product, what are opportunities for cross and upsell. So for the CPG, the consumer product industry, and the retailer, they're just not only going to learn more about the customer, but they'll get a deeper insight of where there are opportunities to build different products, to create different products, to reposition existing products, to promote products that they didn't have before. So we see a very strong use case in the consumer product side, along with the e-commerce side, and the marketers that have consumer data that are performance-based marketers as well.
Thank you for expanding on that. That's such great insight. Let's quickly go back and look at the results of our poll. It looks like for an overwhelmingly high percentage of you, it is the marketing department that is initiating data clean rooms within your organizations, which makes a lot of sense considering what we've heard so far from Tina and Dick. So let's move on.
I will say from that poll, it doesn't surprise me, but I will say, I know, Edith, you mentioned you see a lot of BI buyers. I find that when I talk to advertisers on a daily basis through guidance sessions and inquiries, I find that the buyer, or the main stakeholder, the buyer, is the marketing department, but the gatekeeper is analytics, BI, the people in charge of the data and the analytics, to understand if they can get value from the tool. So if they're a no-go from their end, then the marketer won't invest in.
Yeah, I fully agree. Eventually, the ROI and the value is in the marketeer hands, but there are numerous guards and gateways, and I think we'll touch a little bit on that later, that need to be involved in this process for this to be successful.
It is an entire team effort for data clean rooms. How would you say compliance with GDPR, CCPA, and other regulations is happening at the moment with DCRs?
Right, so yeah, go ahead, Tina.
Oh, I was going to say, just from an industry perspective, like I said in the presentation, the core tenets of a clean room is privacy frameworks and standards. And any clean room that any kind of data collaboration tool will start out with that in their pitch, in their messaging, in their value. And that will also be reflected in their tools and the technology. So I think that the data clean rooms, it's the bedrock, it's the cornerstone. It should be the cornerstone of their core value prop. And having investments in innovation around privacy preserving techniques, because more advanced techniques are out there, and ensuring that these clean rooms are enabling them within their tool to meet the standards of GDPR and kind of the CPRA, CCPA, and other state privacy regulations on the state side is critically important.
Yeah, and I will add, I think GDPR and CCPA and all of these are now table stakes. This is the bare minimum, and this is just a no doubt, right? If you're using any tool that is not GDPR valid, this is, you have a big issue. I think the beauty of the clean rooms and the privacy preserving tech that we're all involved with is that it raises the bar. It doesn't just say, okay, this is the bare minimum we need to meet, and let's be with it to just say that we mark the checkbox. No, data can be in rest, data can be in transit, data can be in use. Most of the state regulations talk about data in rest and something about data in transit, how can we transfer data and how we keep it. But not many of them talk about data in use, how data is being used, to what purposes, how it can be used for by bad actors, how you can still have some encrypted data, which can be reverse engineered to get user level data and to build user graphs out of it. There's so many things that hardcore computing can do with data, which is not governed by these standards and regulations, mainly because, frankly, state order regulations are slow, right? Usually they are not at the cutting edge of tech. They react to what happens. Usually it takes them years to approve in the EU or whatever. And usually when they come out, there's a new frontier already, right? So we are not looking at GDPR as our, like, this is what we have. Of course, it meets all the state regulations, but we take it way further. We put privacy as the cornerstone of everything we do, and every clean room should. And the privacy preserving tech, the zero trust environments, all the different hard, smart words in cryptography, they're not about GDPR. They're way, way more. And I think from a consumer perspective, from an end user perspective, this is really a very, very good thing. Because our goal as an industry here is to maximize utility and maximize user experience while preserving privacy. If we do just privacy, but we don't do anything with user experience, there's nothing, like, we didn't do anything good, right? Privacy should support us, and privacy should lead the way to ensure that end users still get the best user experience we can all possibly offer them as brands, app developers, marketeers, etc. So I think GDPR is table stake. You should absolutely make sure that it is supported by the tool you choose, and expect much, much more.
Sounds like data clean rooms are really leading the way in privacy technology. How hard would you say it is to roll out a data clean room? Edek, I think this one should be.
Yeah, so what I see is that the biggest challenge in rolling out a data clean room is an education aspect. As Tina mentioned earlier in her presentation, we're still in a very early phase, right? I remember myself, even like a year ago, walking around talking to people about clean rooms, and they thought I was talking about chemistry classes in high school, right? It's a very, very new, nascent greenfield thing. And mostly it requires to change state of mind of the marketeers and of the companies. We should all start thinking aggregated data. We should all start thinking cohorts and segments. This is anyway how all of us used to work. But the concept that, hey, we don't need user level to build all this is hard, because we're all so used to have this thing flowing in our veins for decades, right? So changing the state of mind, changing how we think about data, how we think about first party, second and third party data, this is the hard part of rolling it out. And this is what we experience when we come to our customers. Once this shift happens, the actual technicalities of onboarding a clean room and plugging it in and making everything flow, that is pretty straightforward. In some cases, it can take days. In some cases it can maybe take a week or two. But this is the scope, right? It's not like months and you need to develop a huge engineering team to do that. No, you need to change the way you think about your data, about your collaboration with your partners, and then suddenly you are ready to onboard and to take privacy preserving tech into your organization.
And I'll add to that. I think it's like a mindset change, like Edith said, but also it's a very having very clear and specific use cases with a partner is helpful, right? And you may think, oh, well, that's obvious. I find I've been at Forrester for 11 years, and I find that when there is an adoption or an emergence of a new technology or a new analytics approach or anything like that, marketers are very quick to jump on board without having a clear indication of if they need it, what's the use case, and where should I start? And that goes, I think, after the mindset change, or in conjunction with it. It's having a very clear indication, hey, this is what I'm going to use it for, and this is the business case for it. And I think onboarding becomes easier once you do that as well.
So you mentioned a mindset change and clear use cases as things that can act as barriers to implementing a data clean room. Would you say these are the main ones that you've come across, or are there other barriers that you've seen?
I think from my perspective, the biggest barrier, there's a privacy barrier. There's a barrier of ensuring that the data is being shared, has privacy frameworks in place to ensure that the data can't be re-identified and can't be accessed at a raw level, and data governance standards. I think that building that use case, or building the explicit functionalities and characteristics of a data clean room and convincing the organization, I think is an enormous barrier of adoption. And again, I think another barrier is trying to figure out which, when you have clean rooms, you could have multiple partners, right? So if you're starting out with a clean room, you want to identify the best partner to go with. I think that could be potentially another barrier.
Yeah, and I just want to double down on the first part of Tina's answer. Bringing the privacy, security, and legal teams on board as early as possible is, from my experience, crucial. It's key. These teams usually are not involved in the process early, and they don't necessarily understand the value. They don't necessarily feel the pain of the performance marketeer or of the CPG brand, or we cannot activate our audiences and we cannot retarget. So usually what we see, that which doesn't work, is that the entire process, the 4 C's, are being done by the marketeer, and then they come at the very tail end of this funnel to the privacy team and like, hey, can you please approve this? And then usually when it all goes wrong, because suddenly you need to go through more cycles and suddenly everything goes backwards. So it's definitely a barrier. The privacy, legal, and security teams must understand the railguards, the technology being used. Does it meet the regulations of the different geographies where the business operates, of the different regulations? Like if you're dealing with kids, there is COPPA, there is some other specifics, or if you're dealing with whatever, every business has their own quirks. So these teams are crucial for the decision making. They are maybe not the buyer necessarily, but they're definitely key stakeholder, which needs to be convinced. And two pieces of advice I have is, first, involve them and get them on board as soon as possible in the evaluation process of the clean room or the technology you're choosing. And second, what I get quite often is that the marketeers or our customers ask us to join the call with their privacy team to kind of advocate and to explain and to educate the privacy team on what we're doing, because they don't feel confident enough or knowledgeable enough to talk about this. So we are more than happy to be the advocates and the champions and kind of the messenger. So this is also very helpful for a marketeer to bring the actual people who build the clean room and who understand this technology to help propagate it through the organization, to alleviate pains, to answer questions, to make the process as smooth as possible in terms of speed and effort.
Great answer. So let's suppose that we've gone through the 4 C's, we've gotten all the different teams involved early, we've implemented our new data clean room at our company. How do you know if it's actually been a successful implementation? How would you measure success?
Yeah, I mean, I can start from how we think of success. Clean rooms are a piece of tech. right? I mean, we build it, we're excited about it, we're doing webinars about it, but essentially, if we look at the bottom of it, it's a piece of technology and it's a tool that a company gets to and adds to their tech stack. Every tool should enable and support business growth. This is eventually why we all use different tools, right? So Cleanroom is no different. When you implement the Cleanroom and the pets around it, you should make sure that your business KPIs, your business answers, like if you're performance marketing, your ROI, your ROAS, your LTV, your predictive behavior of your customers, that you regain full control that was available to you prior to ATT, prior to iOS 14, prior to all the changes, and that you fully realize your business potential, you can provide the user experience you want to your customers, and you're able to grow. If you're not, and if you're not meeting your KPIs, and if you still don't see the full picture of your marketing activities cross-channel, and you still have blind spots, and you're still like, I feel the pain of the privacy, then it doesn't work for you. So the success of a clean room is directly tied to the success in the case of performance marketing, and in the case of other types of like CPG or what Tina mentioned on their business KPIs.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's all about business growth. Am I growing my part of the business through my specific responsibilities, and is the tool enabling that? I think more specifically, does the clean room enable better targeting or relevancy in a campaign that you weren't getting otherwise? Another aspect to look at in terms of if you're getting value is on the cost side, right? Is it reducing resource time that it would enable otherwise to kind of build campaigns or do analytics? I think is another good way to look at it as well. Another, I think, intangible benefit is to evaluate how a clean room better facilitated partnerships, whether it's between you as the brand with a publisher partner or a series of publisher partners or a retail media group or with big tech. I think that's kind of a little bit more intangible, but there's a lot of benefit to building that relationship, I think, in the long run. That could be financially beneficial for both. So I think that's another aspect to evaluate as well.
And what would you both see as the evolution of data clean rooms in the upcoming year, 2023?
I could take this. So I think the evolution, when I think of evolution, I think of, for some reason, I think of like innovation and like, where is it going in the future? I think from my perspective, the evolution is adoption, right? Buy-in and adoption. Data clean rooms is within marketing is a relatively new concept within marketing for the past year to 18 months. I would say adoption has been moderate to on the slow side, right? So we need to start to help educate the market and saying, hey, this is the use case and this is the benefit. And I think there are a lot of great use cases and benefits out there that we talk about through forums like webinars and conferences. I think it's important for us to continue down that path, and that's what I see the evolution in 2023 is continuing to talk about it and really showcase a lot of use cases across different brands. And it's starting to come out more and more, the use cases. We're starting to see a lot of big brands showcase like how they're using data clean rooms. And I think there's going to be more of that. And there's going to be more adoption across other enterprises as well.
Yep. And I agree with Tina. And I think from my perspective, to enable this adoption, 2023 will be focused on standardization and definition of this entire world. Because again, it's so new. It's so vague. Everybody says they have a clean room, but what is really a clean room and what is it not is still not well defined. No standards, no protocols. There are data warehouse clean rooms such as Snowflake and AWS. Just last week at reInvent released their clean room. You have the content fortresses clean rooms such as Disney. You have the walled garden clean rooms, such as the Facebooks and the Googles of the world. You have the in the middle, unbiased and kind of representing the customer clean rooms, such as AppsFlyer. There's so many of us, right? There's so many different clean rooms, and there's a lot of effort now taking place in IAB, in W3C, in other such bodies which try to govern and to standardize, where we sit all at one big round table and try to define what is it? What is data clean room? What is private join? What is the input? What is the output? What are the controls? And I do believe that in 2023, all of this will be much more clear. There will be white papers, there will be definitions, there will be certifications, and it will make life much simpler and much clearer to the marketeer, to the enterprise, to the brand, to say, oh, now I get it. And now I can apply Tina's amazing 4 C's on something I actually understand. And now I can start adopting it. Do I need this type of clean room, or do I need that type of clean room? Or maybe I need both. This is really important. And this is the enabler of the adoption curve. And this is the enabler of usage, is for people to, I mean, our webinar might be helpful to some, but hopefully we will need less webinars and education and more, this is what it is, this is the standard, like somewhat like internet or HTTP. Nobody today asks, what is HTTP? Everybody knows it, right? So this is what we're trying to achieve in all of these committees and governing bodies in terms of standardization in coming next year.
And just to add on to what Edith said, you know, at Forrester, we try to segment the market and give the market a construct of what a data clean room is pretty successfully. And my colleagues are working on privacy preserving technologies. But to Edith's point, the details around that, yes, they need to be sussed out a bit more with the key players in this space. Particularly, I find around the privacy standardization and frameworks of what is considered a data clean room. Because again, that's the bedrock of it. And what is a minimal privacy standard of a clean room varies depending on the use case, but having more deeper details from the IAB, I think, is going to be essential, and other associations.
Sounds like we have a much brighter and clearer future to look forward to with DCR. And before we head into our Q&A, I would love to get the audience's thoughts on this. So where do you all see data clean rooms going in the next year? So feel free to share your answer in the poll that's on your screen. And as the answers come rolling in, let's head over to our Q&A section. So let's see if we have any questions here. Can you segment the data clean room data by geographical location to understand the differences between them?
The data clean room, like the data clean room data by geographic location to understand the difference. I think I'll take it from my perspective, but Edith, you may be better to answer this. I think as long as if you're in agreement with the your partner about what data can be used within a clean room, then I think the governance standards stated through that agreement should be okay, if I'm reading this question correctly. Edith, any thoughts here?
If I understand the question correctly, between different countries and different regions, there are different regulations in terms of data cannot leave the country, or data must be on local servers, etc., etc. And of course, if a clean room should support your need, and your need is global, you need to make sure that this clean room is able to work in such a restriction. For instance, we know that we are looking at it deeply and we're thinking a lot about it, and we're building our clean room in a way that if your data is in APAC and your partner is in the US, this should work, right? It's hard. We need to facilitate a lot of it, but it's definitely a business need and it must work. So the clean rooms and the clean room providers, and we're working heavily with the AWSs of the world and the Google Clouds of the world, because they're a big player in this, to enable this data computation across different countries and regions where regulations are different. So it takes a village. It takes all the ed tech community and the cloud community to build it out, but this is absolutely a must.
Thank you. And before we go on to our second question, let's have a look at the results of that poll. It looks like people are expecting that there'll be lots of projects running in 2023, and a lot of them will be by early adopters. Does that
Nobody thinks it's a fad. We succeeded.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are no votes for fad, which is great.
That's a win.
So let's move on to our next question from the audience. Do Meta or Google currently support clean rooms? If not, can you reiterate on the value for iOS marketers, as it currently remains unclear?
Yeah, I can maybe start with that. So all of the huge walled garden companies and ad networks have a version of a clean room, right? Google has Google Ads Data Hub. They are actually the first ones to kind of come out with this. They just recently, last week, split it into two, a clean room for activation purposes and a clean room for measurement purposes. So they are working on this as well. Facebook or Meta are doing a lot of amazing things in promoting pets. They're working on multi-party computation and private attribution and private lift. A lot of things go on. I highly recommend everyone to read. It's all public, it's all available, it's all on GitHub. Love the work that our friends at Meta are doing. And others have clean rooms as well, right? The Amazon Ad Network, the Amazon Marketing Cloud, they all have it, right? We, for instance, our clean room works with them all. It's interoperable, it's integrated. There's no one clean room to rule them all, and never will be. The data collaboration also means data clean room collaboration. And we just need to ensure that we all work together, that it's all regulated and defined properly. Early stages, right? Again, as we mentioned throughout this session, it's still early. Some things are working, some things are in the works, and some things might be a year or two away. But for instance, our clean room enables our customers to measure, attribute, and optimize all of our partners, including the names that were mentioned. And yes, we work within the iOS regulations. Nobody breaks anything. On the contrary, we hug it, we respect it, and we treat SKAd network and machine learning attribution, the complex models Tina mentioned. All of this goes together, and all of this tries to maximize the availability of the marketeer to regain full visibility into their data. So it's very relevant for iOS marketeers, absolutely. And I specifically think for iOS marketeers, they must be the early adopters. Google is coming, by the way. Google Privacy Sandbox is not far away. So yes, if you're a Google marketeer as well, but iOS marketeers should definitely be on the early side of the adoption curve.
Yes, exactly what Edith said. All privacy, or I'm sorry, all walled gardens, even beyond just the three, the publishers, they all have some type of clean room capabilities. Within working with iOS, they will all work within the iOS rules. So it's just a matter of interoperability and how your clean room partner can work with other clean rooms and other points of data, I think becomes really important.
Speaking of data, the next question is how much first-party data is needed from an organization to be able to use a data clean room?
From my perspective, it's more use case driven, right? You can have a decent amount of first-party data that could drive a ton of marketing and business value. So I think it starts with the specific use case to use that data. Certainly performance marketers that have access to customer level data, transaction level data, that need to use that as a mechanism for a join within a clean room to measure ads within a publisher and linking up those ad impressions through identity. I think within a clean room environment, I think that is a good use case for it. It's a strong use case for it, and it could result in a lot of data for it. And I think there are certain statistical standards that need to be met in order for the use case of a clean room has enough volume But I think it primarily should be driven by use case and then by determining whether or not you have a lot of volume there. So it's representative of what you're trying to achieve. Edith, do you have any thoughts
I
here?
agree. Usually, like what the short answer is the more the merrier.
Right.
First party data was always king. Now it becomes the emperor. The first party data is consented data that your users, your customers gave you. This is gold. You build your relationship with your end users, with your customers, and in exchange, they provide you something super valuable. And then you use this first party data to maximize their user experience and to grow your own business. So the more you have it, the better for your business, let alone privacy and clean rooms. And then once you have it, as Tina mentioned, you can use it to enrich, to activate against it, to optimize, to build models, and to use it in different use cases. You don't need to put everything everywhere. You cut and you slice and dice, you choose what is relevant to every use case. The more you have of this currency, first party data becomes currency, really. The more you have of this currency, the better things you can do, the more you can compete, the more you can edge your competitors, and the more you can grow your business and provide an excellent experience to your customers. So overall, I would urge everyone to try to see how do you build this relationship with your end users for them to trust your brand, to consent to provide you with the most first-party data possible, because this will be key from now on till, I don't know, 5-10 years at least.
The next question is kind of a follow-up on something that Tina said. One of our viewers is asking if you could elaborate on the term clean room interoperability and what that really means.
So interoperability means the ability to kind of operate across multiple environments. Certainly that's inclusive of things like ability to join data across multiple publishers, multiple big tech, along with the brand, but it's also interoperability to activate insights. It's not necessarily an audience sync the same way that you think about how a DMP used to do it. But rather, when I think of activation of audiences within the clean room, it's either you're doing a one-to-one activation with a publisher where the data isn't re-identifiable, or you're extracting signals of audiences that you want to target in environments where you don't have to you don't have to kind of share down to a non-identifiable level of consumer data, right? So it's shifting that mindset of audience targeting at a one-to-one level within a clean room of, it's not necessarily one-to-one anymore. It's looking at signals of an audience that you created within a clean room to activate against. And those signals could be like demographic signals. It could be contextual signals, what people are interested in, what they're reading, which can be highly effective, but that's created within a clean room.
Yeah, and from when I said interoperability in one of my answers, I actually meant the technical part of it. So you chose, according to your 4 Cs, a specific clean room. And your partner, whoever it can be, and tech partner, ad partner, it doesn't matter. They chose for their own reasons, because all of us need to choose, they chose their own clean room. It doesn't mean that now you cannot work. So clean room interoperability and the standards I mentioned earlier we must have is enabling this ecosystem to thrive. Because we cannot be in a situation where if you and I don't use the same clean room technology, we cannot collaborate. This is against the concepts of privacy collaboration. So the clean rooms will be interoperable. The clean rooms will know to work with each other and to create, if you will, like a sequence or a flow of clean rooms where privacy is preserved, all the patterns and all the things are working and standardized, and the outcome to both sides is aggregated and privacy preserving as expected.
And it looks like with that answer, our time is up. So we want to thank you all for attending and joining us for our webinar today. And we especially want to thank our guest, Tina, for joining us. And if you're looking for more, yes, of course, thank you for being here. And if anyone is looking for more information on the AppsFlyer Privacy Cloud or on our data cleanroom solution, you can check out our website at appsflyer.com. We'll hope to see.
Thanks, Tina. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.